All right, here we go. Good afternoon. Uh, Greetings. Welcome to Father Bill's Backyard Bees and my new YouTube channel. I started back in December, right before Christmas. And today we're going to talk about, will my bees survive really cold weather? As you can see, I'm kind of wrapped up and I got my scarf and my hat on. Our bees right now are getting ready for snow. We're down here in southeastern North Carolina and near the coast. We don't usually get snow. Our average temperatures 55 during the day, 35 at night, 20-degree spread, 55, 35. Now, when you know it, we've got the last month or so, our average has dropped down to 45 with lows around 25, which is unusual for us. So we're getting a colder winter, but we've got the forecast this evening is some kind of snow, maybe some sleet, but definitely cold tonight, tomorrow. And so, what are our bees going to do? But before we talk about that, I need to introduce myself. I'm Father Bill Prevet. I am a retired Episcopal pastor. We've been living here for 22 years now. Retired back in 2006, so that's almost 19 years ago. And after I retired, I started helping a good friend of my cousin over in Carteret County, helping him with his bees. And then one thing led to another, and I had bees in my backyard. Now, my interest in bees, I should say, goes all the way back to 1962 when I was a Boy Scout in Asheville, North Carolina, and working on beekeeping merit badge. I've got a copy. Oh, here we go. I've got some beekeeping merit badge. My son, there you go. You can get a good look at it. There it is. My son found those for me. He's a retired military colonel over in Fayetteville and Boy Scout and now Scoutmaster. He went to a traderie, I think is what they call it, and found somebody selling that merit badge. That merit badge was a hard one to get. It took a whole year from start to finish. You had to do bees entire season. You had to, back then in 1962, you had to make your own equipment. Your frames were made out of real wax with the wire that you embed and crimp. And then we didn't have, of course, the small hive beetles. We didn't have the wax moths. Uh, Really, it was a lot of fun keeping bees, but you had to do it all year, the complete season. Then you had to master bee biology, and you had to master seasonal activities. And then at the very end, you had to write a 200-word essay. Now that's the clincher for a 12-year-old Boy Scout. When you have to write an essay, no thanks. But we moved to Asheville and I didn't get to finish it. I did get Insect Life and I did get Eagle, but I didn't finish that. I started playing guitar in a rock and roll group in the eighth grade, and ended up spending more and more time doing that than anything else. So uh, after I retired, my cousin's friend got me into beekeeping. He sort of mentored me. I was his apprentice for many years. He had upwards to 50 different colonies down there that I helped him with, and it was a very educational opportunity that I enjoyed. And lo and behold, I ended up with bees in my backyard. And now today, me and a retired Marine colonel named Steve, the the two of us, we take care of 40 to 50 bees. We have three different bee yards, 40 to 50 colonies between my backyard, his backyard, and then back behind the church vacant lot. They graciously allowed us to put bees down there. And of course, the church gets the honey every year, which then they turn around and sell, which is pretty lucrative. So anyway, that's who I am and what I'm up to at this point. And basically, I again make a long story short, I ended up joining the North Carolina Beekeeping Association and I started going to the local county chapters here. And then I took the bee test. Well, I went to bee school, took the bee test, was certified. Later on, I took another test, more service hour points, and I became a journeyman. And then 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, I was the president of the chapter. And I also now moderate a group of advanced beekeepers. We call ourselves the First Monday Beekeepers because we meet on the first Monday of the month down at the church. And we concern ourselves more with more advanced issues than a beginner beekeeper would be dealing with. And we also are interested in the latest science and studies that are going on and how that supports us in our beekeeping and how we can better understand our bees. So that's what we've got going on right now. And you're welcome to come if you're close enough. I mentor people in 4 different counties around here. So the first Monday of every month, we meet at 7 o'clock at St. Anne's Episcopal Church, Henderson Avenue in Jacksonville. So you're welcome to come and visit and share with us. It's a great group. There's no business, no committees, no officers, no dues. It's more like a roundtable discussion of local beekeepers, and we talk about what's going on with our bees, which is gets me back to will my bees survive this really cold weather? And the answer is yes, if. Your bees are going to survive if you have enough bees in that colony and they're healthy and these are all winter bees now. Your summer bees are long gone. And if they're healthy and vigorous, they're going to be able to maintain their cluster and they're going to survive this cold weather. They're not going to be out. Now, Sunday afternoon, my bees were out, all of them, and I was able to go through each hive and make sure they all had enough fondant. That's what I've been using for the past 2 years. I'll put a plug in. I don't get any money, but really, we've had really good results with Hive Alive fondant, and that's what we're using right now. So I'll put that plug in, and you can try that out. Now, some of our beekeepers make their own candy boards. That works great. And I tell you, I started off quite a few years ago using, and down in Carteret County with my mentor, we use the Mountain Cap uh, procedure, which is just using putting newspaper down and putting sugar over it. But we did a couple of extras. We would spritz it with sugar water, and we had a mixture of in that sugar water. We had a mixture of apple cider vinegar and a little bit of honey, be healthy, and so forth. So anyway, so if you've got healthy bees and you got a lot of them, they're going to make it. Now, with the snow on the ground, don't freak out if the next day you go out and you see dead bees on the snow. That's normal. We just don't see them. There's normally a certain number of bees that die, and they're, of course, taken out by the undertaker bees. and most of the time they're just pushed off the landing board in and into the grass, so we don't see them. But now with the snow, that's going to freak some people out. So watch. So be careful. It's no big deal. You're going to see bees on the snow. But anyway, now if by chance, you lose a hive, I want to recommend. Let me look at this sheet right here. I would recommend that you get on Google and you Google dead colony forensic. That's a tricky forensics, dead colony forensics, and that is uh, a procedure that Dr. Dewey Caron developed. Dewey is retired professor from University of Delaware and a great and well-known bee expert. Uh, And so Dewey has he focuses on three possible causes. Your colony was too weak to survive, which is what I've been talking about. You just didn't have enough bees. Uh, Starvation, which means they either ran out of food and you haven't been giving them emergency food, or they couldn't get to it, or they were sick. They weren't healthy to begin with. And usually these small colonies, they're not healthy to begin with, so they may not make it anyway. And it's because they have viruses, and viruses are vectored by mites. So if you haven't been treating for mites or you haven't treated adequately, you may see your bees becoming sick, and when they become sick, they leave the colony, they leave the hive. They don't generally die within the hive. So anyway, that's the answer to the first one. The second one is very interesting. We covered that a little bit, and that has to do with the take this off because I just put this on to make a point. Now, we talked about this at our first Monday meeting, our last meeting. We were told in B school that we had to add some ventilation to the top of our hives. That we needed to prop open the outer cover, the telescoping cover, just a little bit, and so that warm air could escape because it had a lot of moisture, which could condensate on the inner cover and drip on our bees. It turns out that the bees, warm air is important. That's how that helps your cluster stay warm. Because remember, they don't have to heat the entire hive, they only have to heat each other. Bees are cold blooded. Remember that. And so, but by clustering and shivering, then they produce heat and heat each other and warm each other. So keep that in mind. I remember watching a documentary on the penguins down in the Antarctica and how they clustered together, as it were, and would work their way into the inner circle of the cluster and then would rotate out. So there was a constant in and out, and that's the same thing with bees. So you get a turn in the middle where the queen is, but you also you have to take a turn out on the outer edge. So your temperature, but as long as the temperature in the cluster is above 40, I would say 45. I think I read where 43 was the critical temperature, which then induces what's called a cold coma or torpor. And a bee goes into that state, and unless warmed up, after 48, 56 hours, it'll die. But if they can maintain that cluster temperature 45, 50 degrees, they're okay. Now, if they happen to have brood in there, and so they got to keep that brood at 92 to 95 degrees, that can be troublesome. A lot of times we'll see where that brood ends up getting chilled and it dies. We call that chilled brood. But anyway, so condensation, I would recommend looking at Bill Heschbach That's Hesbach, Bill Heschbach. He's a beekeeper, an EAS master beekeeper up in Connecticut. So if you Google him, he's got a lot to say about the what he calls a condensing hive. And the answer is you put a lot of insulation in the top, and so that really cold air doesn't come in contact with really, really warm air. That there's enough insulation in between, and this keeps your bees a lot warmer. And so I would recommend that. So, what we were told way back in bee school, it turns out that probably not a good idea to prop your hives open. We were told to put a popsicle stick or a twig for to do that. So before you do that, though, go check out what Bill Hatchbach has to say. It's very, very interesting. So at our meeting, two of our members they got interested in they want to hang some swarm traps. Where do we hang swarm traps? So I just love to talk about swarms, and I'll talk about swarms all day because Steve and I, it's been 5 or 6 years now. We call ourselves sustainable beekeepers because we trap swarms, we recover swarms. All of our bees out here are come from swarms. And what we do is we pay attention to the genetics, the traits that are expressed, the ones that we want. We want bees that are, of course, gentle and are healthy. And a lot of them are showing hygienic behavior. And I'll get into that later on. And of course, we wanted to make to overwinter and be survivable bees. The downside is when we catch a swarm, we don't know exactly how old the queen is. She's got to be at least a year old. Before that, they won't swarm. Those queens won't swarm. And so far, we haven't caught any queens that were marked. We don't have any apiaries close to us, and we live on the edge of town. Out here, it's nothing but woods and more woods and a river. So it's a good chance we're catching mostly feral bees. Probably some of my bees that have swarmed away and survived over winter, which is great. They survive over winter without any management. Then we get them back. Where to hang those swarm traps? There's lots of neat ways to find out. And once you find a good spot, that spot's going to be good every year. So we'll go into more detail because what I plan on doing, if I can get this GoPro to work right, I plan on recording a lot of swarms and sharing those on my channel here. So, anyway, and here's another good question that came to us, and it's my bees just left, they're gone. And again, I would suggest going to Dr. Karen's uh, dead bee for forensics because most of the time when that happens this time of year, it's not a swarm. They've absconded. Your bees probably got sick and they left. So, but we'll cover more of that maybe next week because I don't want to. Temptation is to talk too much this week. So, but finally, starting over, I got to talk a little theology. The neat thing about beekeeping is there's a redemptive element to it. So you lose your bees or you lose half of your bees. The average for a beekeeper is between, uh, well, let's see, last year it was 48% lost all their bees. And or no, you lose 48% of your bees. And this year, I think it's down to 43. So if you got 10 hives, you're going to expect to lose 4 hives, 40%. Um, so that's the way it works. So what do? You got options. So we're going to talk about starting over, packages, uh, and there's some secrets to getting the right kind of package. A lot of people don't know about that. Or do you want a nuke? And again, a nuke, you get the what I call the full Monty. You get all you need. You get a queen that's proven queen that's laying because you want to see her pattern before you buy that nuke, and you get a complement, full complement of nurse bees, foragers, even some honey and food resources, bee bread, pollen, you name it. You get a complete mini hive, as it were, 5 frames, and generally it's 5 frames, and then that's what you put in your deep box. That's what you put in your hive. And then there's the swarms. And I think Steve and I were talking the other day, and I don't think we have not bought any bees in 5 or 6 years, because all we do now is catch bees. And so catching swarms, there's an art to it. And there's a lot of science behind it. We were told in bee school that swarms were bad. And I remember a commercial beekeeper getting up and telling the class, by all means, do not let your bees swarm, because if you do, you'll lose half of your bees and you won't get any honey. Well, that's halfway true and halfway false. It's practically impossible to prevent a swarm, because it's such a natural act of reproduction for bees. Bees are genetically programmed to swarm, and that's how bees reproduce, particularly in the wild. And there are advantages to swarming. Swarms produce brood breaks with the remaining bees that are there, and the new queen, which is one of the old queen's daughters. That brood break is important in mite control. And that's it could be up to 21 day. Well, with a new queen, it's going to be 28 days of no new brood. And those mites have to have brood for that founderess female mite to go in and lay eggs. So there's a lot of advantages to catching swarms. And I don't know how many people say, oh, swarms are terrible. You don't know what you're getting. They could be sick. No, that's not true. Well, you're getting the complete hive or colony. When that swarm leaves, you're getting a complete colony, a proven queen that once they get in, they will start making wax. They'll start making comb, and they have stomach full of honey. They're ready to make comb. That queen's ready to start laying eggs and making bees, and you can't beat that. And you have a full complement of bees. You've got foragers, you've got nurse bees, you've got drones, you've got everything you need. And these early swarms, you may end up with 20,000 bees. And those large swarms that we capture, they end up producing honey. So don't let anybody tell you that catching swarms is a bad idea and you got to quarantine them and all that. That's just not true. I'm here to tell you. We got bees out here that we've had. Some of these bees, the good ones, we end up splitting year after year. We keep that genetics. And so at the present time, we've got roughly 30 colonies that we're overwintering. We'll be up to 50 uh, in a couple of months. In about 3 months, we'll be up to 50. So again, and we'll talk more about that. Like I said, swarms are one of my favorite events, and I have all kinds of neat techniques, and I love to explain the science behind all of it, which comes from Dr. Tom Seeley up at Cornell. So anyway, so I think it's time to wrap up. I've talked too much, talked plenty, and just want to say thanks for watching my first videos on YouTube, and thanks for watching today, this afternoon, and hope you've learned something that you can use, and will encourage you to like and subscribe. Now, my plan is to upload a video each week in the same sort of way that, let's see, David Burns out in Illinois, he does a question and answer, and also Fred Dunn up in Erie, Pennsylvania. I really enjoy listening to Fred, Fred's a Cornell master beekeeper. And by the way, I'm finishing my master beekeeping program with Cornell. I have one more unit coming up in February, and then you prepare, you have time then to prepare for your written exam, practical exam, and let's see, oral exam, where you're presenting to class a topic that we pick, um, Cornell and I picked. So anyway, um, so with a little bit of luck and a whole lot of study, I hope to have my master beekeeping certificate from Cornell this June in about 6 months. And anyway, I'm gonna survive. I'm going to share with you uh, what I can during the week. If I can answer those questions, great. If not, I'll point you in the right direction. In the meantime, if you have any questions, email me, uh, text me if you're local, or give me a phone call. Be glad to help you figure things out as best we can, because with beekeeping, there's always more than one answer to a situation. And when the swarm season arrives, I can promise you I'll be out there, and if I can get this GoPro to talk to my computer, I'm sure I've got some friends that know how to do that. I will be uh, recording swarms and sharing those on my channel, as well as tips on how to improve your swarm catching, how to hive your swarm, and how to take care of your new colony as you get them in their hives. So, again, thanks for watching, and please remember to like and subscribe. And I'll talk to you next week. Take care.